So, I don't know how many of you have even heard of this movie or know that it came out or know that it was even made. I am here to tell you to get your ass to a theater as soon as you can and see The Black Phone. Here's my review. For starters, Scott Derrickson doesn't get enough credit as a director, and more so as a director of horror. His track record is predominantly horror. He directed the first Doctor Strange movie. I'm not into the MCU. I don't watch them really, so you'll have to let me know how he did with that. In terms of his efforts within the genre of horror, he's directed The Exorcism of Emily Rose, banger. He's directed Sinister, banger. Also, the most times I've ever jumped in a theater, Sinister scared the shit out of me. But now he's directed this, and I will say right now, this is the best movie he's directed. And that's saying a lot, because this, I feel, was his biggest gamble. Apart from Ethan Hawke, who plays the killer in this film, we'll get to him in a minute. This film relies heavily on child actors. This might be some of the best child acting I've ever seen. Prior to this, 2017's It, the first chapter when they were kids, was like that was the bar. That was where you need to get to. But I think this outdoes it. I'm terrible with names, so forgive me, but Mason Thames and Madeline McGraw are the two lead child actors in this. What they bring to the table are two completely different performances, but the way that they mold together to carry the film further is nothing short of remarkable. Both deliver a very dramatic performance, but Madeline McGraw also provides the comedic relief. I know in horror movies it's very typical to have a character who comes in with the jokes and the punchlines, but she did it in a way that was so effortless and welcoming, I guess. Not to spoil anything, but her character is somewhat religious in this film, and there's many scenes where she's praying to Jesus. One in particular that my wife and I laughed at pretty substantially. You'll know what it is if you've seen it. But Mason, being the main character, he was forced to deliver a much more panicked, much more exhausting performance, I guess is the right word. Their chemistry whenever they're on screen together felt more like a brother and sister than I've seen on screen in a really long time. I think as soon as the credits rolled, that was the first thing I said to Chloe, was the way they played off of each other was incredible. She agreed. There's a lot of other child actors that are in for, 5 or 10 minutes, and everyone I felt carried their weight and provided what they need to. But the main course is Ethan Hawke. Over the last 5 or 6 years, I've really become an Ethan Hawke fanboy. Anything he's in, I want to see now. So when I read that he would be playing a child abductor / murderer, sign me up. Sign me up. His performance is so multi-dimensional, so bipolar. He goes from being loving and welcoming to, in the blink of an eye, screaming at a child saying he's going to gut them. And he does it seamlessly. One of the cool aspects of his character was the mask that he wore. It doesn't really go into too much detail about why he feels certain way towards certain kids, or if they did, I missed it and it was very brief. But the mask itself is almost like a character. It changes throughout, and it has a lot to do with what's going on within the context of that scene. One of my favorite aspects, if not my most favorite aspect, and this is something that he did in Sinister very well. I didn't think I'd see it in this one, although I should have, because it's set back in 1978. The use of what almost feels like vintage footage. It's very grainy, very distorted. It's almost got like a staticky sound to it. It feels like it's playing on a film reel. The way that the opening sequence cuts into the opening credit sequence was it was a work of art. As soon as the opening credits started, I looked right at Chloe, and she was already looking at me, and our jaws were just open. The use of the film combined with the score that they played over it, it was such a tone setter for the rest of the film, having seen how it played out. I was ready to give it a 10 out of 10 just right there. The jump scares in this were limited. This was more of a tense, slow burn kind of an event. But the jump scares, where they were placed in the film, was perfect. They were used scarcely but effectively. It has a lot to do with the composition of the shot, the music you choose to play, the reveal of whatever the jump may be. A lot of the films that have come out recently, The Nun being the most memorable, although I wish I could forget that film, overdoses on jump scares to the point where they just start falling flat. And I think I jumped 2 or 3 times, but they were just done perfectly. This film also pushes the needle in terms of child violence and what you're watching happen to a child. Being new parents, I was interested to see how that would affect me. My wife looked away a couple times. I didn't, but there was one scene in particular, and again, you'll know it when you see it, that felt so real, and the child in the scene was acting so effectively. It didn't feel like a movie. Like, I'm getting goosebumps kind of talking about it again because it was so visceral, and the scene went on for like 3-4 minutes and it just did not stop. Oh, and one last thing to add on, Blumhouse has a new opening logo / title card. It's perfect. And I'm mainly saying it's perfect because it features Michael Myers, but it features Easter eggs from all the films they've put out over the last decade or so. But other than that, I have no complaints about this film. It's the closest that I've seen to a perfect horror film in a couple years. Hereditary mainly being my last example of that. Please see it. I think it made like 23 million opening weekend. I would really like for it to get a strong second weekend because movies like this don't really get made anymore. And if they're made, they don't get produced by larger companies like this. So please check it out. Please tell your friends about it. It's not for everybody, but for those that it does suit, give it a chance just so I can have someone else to talk to about it. That's really it. Other than that, I appreciate you guys checking this out, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace.